No, good. The volume is good. We'd like to welcome everyone to our weekly Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada. Before we begin, we always offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpaturvischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So for all of you out there in internet land, we are on chapter 14, the prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. And if you turn your pages, just a few pages, we're at the bottom of a paragraph starting with Lord Brahma confirmed, reconfirmed. So we'll begin. Prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. Lord Brahma reconfirmed his statement, establishing Krishna as the original Narayan. He said that the Lord's gigantic universal form is resting on the water known as Garbhodaka. He spoke as follows: this gigantic universal form is another manifestation of your energy. On account of his resting on the water, this universal form is also Narayan. And we are all within the womb of this Narayan form. I see your different Narayan forms everywhere. I can see you on the water. I can feel you within my heart and can also see you before me now. You are the original Narayan.
My dear Lord, in this incarnation, you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. You remain within the cosmic manifestation, and yet the whole creation is within you. This fact has already been proved by you when you exhibited the whole universal creation within your mouth before your mother, Yashoda. By your inconceivable potency of Yoga Maya, you can effect such things without external help. My dear Lord Krishna, the whole cosmic manifestation that we are visualizing at present is all within your body, yet I am seeing you outside, and you are also seeing me outside. How can such things happen without being influenced by your inconceivable energy?
Remember to read slowly, so that our online devotees will hear nicely, and that Prabhupada.
Lord Brahma stressed herein that without accepting the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot explain things as they are. He continued, my dear Lord, leaving aside all other things and just considering today's happenings, what I have seen, are they not all due to your inconceivable energies? First of all, I saw you alone. Thereafter, you expanded yourself as your cowherd boyfriends, the cows, and the whole existence of Vrindavana. Then I saw you and all the boys and calves as four-handed Vishnus, and they were being worshipped by all elements and all demigods, including myself. Again, they were all wound up, and you remain alone, as you were before. Does this not mean that you are the Supreme Lord Narayana, the origin of everything, that everything emanates from you and again enters into you, leaving you the same as before?
Persons, persons who are unaware of your inconceivable energy cannot understand that you alone expand yourself as the creator Brahma, the maintainer Vishnu, and the annihilator Shiva. Persons who are not in awareness of things as they are contemplate that I, Brahma, are the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and the Lord Shiva is the annihilator. Actually, you alone are everything: creator, maintainer, and annihilator. Similarly, you expand yourself in different incarnations. Okay, need some more light. Among the demigods, you incarnate as Vamana Deva. Among the great sages, you incarnate as Parshuram. Among the human beings, you appear as yourself, Lord Brahma, or as Lord Rama. Among the animals, you appear as the boar incarnation, and among the aquatics, you appear as the fish incarnation. And yet you have no appearances or disappearances. You are always eternal. Your appearance and disappearance are made possible by your inconceivable energy, just to give protection to the faithful devotees and to annihilate the faithless demons. O my Lord, O all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, controller of all mystic powers, no one can appreciate your transcendental pastimes as they are exhibited within these three words. No one can estimate how you have expanded your Yoga Maya and your incarnations, and how you act by your transcendental energy. My dear Lord, the whole cosmic manifestation is just like a flashing dream, and its temporary existence simply disturbs the minds. As a result, we are full of anxiety. In this existence, to live within this material world means simply to suffer and to be full of all miseries. And yet the temporary existence of the material world appears to be pleasing and dear on account of its having evolved from your body, which is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge.
My conclusion is therefore that you are the Supreme Soul, the Absolute Truth, and the Supreme Original Person. And although by your inconceivable transcendental potencies, you have expanded yourself in so many Vishnu forms and also in the living entities and other energies, you are the Supreme One without a second, the Supreme Super Soul. The innumerable living entities are simply like sparks of the original fire. Your Lordship, the conception of the Super Soul as impersonal is wrong because I see that you are the original person. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge may think that because you are the son of Maharaj Nanda, you are not the original person. That you are born just like a human being. They are mistaken. You are the actually original person. That is my conclusion. In spite of your being the son of Nanda, you are the original person, and there is no doubt about it. You are the absolute truth, and you are the not of this material darkness. You are the source of the original Brahmajyoti as well as the material luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars. Your transcendental effulgence is identical with the Brahmajyoti as it is described in the Brahma Samhita. The Brahmajyoti is nothing but your personal worldly effulgence. There are many Vishnu incarnations and incarnations of your different qualities. But all those incarnations are not on the same level. You are the original lamp. Other incarnations may possess the same candle power as the original lamp, but the original lamp is the beginning of all light. And because you are not one of the creations of this material world, even after the annihilation of this world, your existence as you are will continue.
Hare Krishna. Because you are the original person, you are described in the Gopal Tapni Upanishad as well as in the Brahm Samhita as Govindam Adi Purusham. Govinda is the original person, the cause of all causes. In the Bhagavad-Gita also it is stated that you are the source of the Brahman effulgence. No one should conclude that your body is like an ordinary material body. Your body is Akshara, indestructible. The material body is always full of threshold miseries. But your body is Satchidanand Vigraha, full of bliss, knowledge and eternality. You are also Niranjan because your pastimes as the little son of Mother Yashoda or the lover of the gopis are never contaminated by the material qualities. And although you exhibited yourself as so many cowherd boys and calves, your transcendental potency was not reduced. You are always complete, as it is described in the Vedic literature. Even if the complete is taken away from the complete, the supreme absolute truth, it remains the complete supreme absolute truth. And although many expansions from the complete are visible, the complete is one without a second. Since all your pastimes are spiritual, there is no possibility of their being contaminated by the material modes of nature. When you place yourself as subordinate to your father and mother, Nand and Yashoda, you are not reduced in your potency. This is an expression of your loving attitude towards your devotees. There is no second identity to compete with you. A person with a poor fund of knowledge concludes that your appearance and pastimes are simply material designation. You are transcendental to both nescience and knowledge. As it is confirmed in the Gopal Tapni Upanishad, you are the original Amrit, indestructible nectar of immorality, as confirmed in the Vedas. Amritam Shashvatam Brahma. Brahman is eternal, the supreme origin of everything, who has no birth or death. Hare Krishna.
In the Upanishads, it is stated that the Supreme Brahman is as effulgent as the sun and is the origin of everything. And that anyone who can understand that original person becomes liberated from material conditioned life. Anyone who can simply be attached to you by devotional service can know your actual position, birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. As confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita, simply by understanding your constitutional position, appearance, and disappearance, one can be immediately elevated
Hare Krishna. Did you finish? Do it again so Jagadish can hear what's happening.
As confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita, simply by understanding your constitutional position, appearance and disappearance, one can be immediately elevated to the spiritual kingdom after quitting this present body. Therefore, to cross over the ocean of materialness science, an intelligent person takes shelter of your lotus feet and is easily transferred to the spiritual world.
There are many so-called meditators who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul. As stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, you are the Supreme Soul present in everyone's heart. Therefore, there is no necessity of one's meditating on something beyond you. One who is always absorbed in meditation on your original form of Krishna easily crosses over the ocean of material nescience. But persons who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul remain within this material world in spite of their so-called meditation. If by the association of your devotees a person comes to the knowledge that Lord Krishna is the original Super Soul, then it is possible for him to cross over the ocean of material ignorance. For instance, when a person mistakes a rope for a snake, he is filled with fear. But as soon as he understands that the rope is not a snake, he is liberated from fear. If one understands you, therefore, through your personal teachings, as stated in the Bhagavad-Gita, or through the teachings of your pure devotees, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam and all other Vedic scriptures, if one realizes that you are the ultimate goal of understanding, he need no longer fear this material existence.
So-called liberation and bondage have no meaning for a person who is already engaged in your devotional service. Just as a rope is not fearful to a person who knows that it is not a snake, a devotee knows that this material world belongs to you, and he therefore engages everything in your transcendental loving service. Thus, there is no bondage for him. For a person who is already situated in the sun planet, there is no question of appearance or disappearance of the sun in the name of day or night. It is also said that you, Krishna, are just like the sun and that Maya is like darkness. When the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. So, for those who always remain in your presence by engaging in your service, there is no question of bondage or liberation. They are already liberated. On the other hand, persons who falsely think themselves to be liberated without taking shelter of your lotus feet fall down because their intelligence is not pure.
If one therefore thinks that the Super Soul is something different from your personality and thus searches out the Super Soul or the Supreme Brahman somewhere else in the forest or in the caves of the Himalayas, his condition is very lamentable. Your teaching in the Bhagavad-Gita are that one should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply surrender unto you, for that is complete. Because you are the Supreme in every respect, those who are searching after the Brahman effulgence are also searching after you, and those who are searching after Super Soul realization are also searching after you. You state in the Bhagavad Gita that You yourself, by your personal representation as a super soul, have entered into this material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the super souls anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. One who is transcendental to such a position understands that you are unlimited. You are both within and without. Therefore, your presence is everywhere. Instead of searching for the super soul anywhere else, a devotee only concentrates his mind on you within. Actually, one who is liberated from the material concept of life can search for you. Others can't. The example of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, when one mistakes a rope for a snake, the existence of the snake is only within the mind. The existence of Maya similarly is only within the mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. When one forgets your personality, that is a conditioned state of Maya. Therefore, one who is fixed upon you, both internally and externally, is not illusion.
One who has attained a little result of devotional service can understand your glories. Even one striving for Brahman realization or Paramatma realization cannot understand these features of your personality unless you bestow on him the result of at least a slight bit of devotional service. One may be the spiritual master of many impersonalists, or he may go to the forest or to a mountain cave and meditate as a hermit for many, many years. But he cannot understand your glories without being favored by a slight degree of devotional service. Brahman realization or Paramatma realization are also not possible even after one searches for many, many years unless one is touched by the wonderful effect of devotional service.
Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that in this life or in another life, wherever I may take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. Wherever I may be, I pray that I may be engaged in your devotional service. I do not even care what form of life I get in the future, because I can see that even in the form of cows and calves or covered boys, that the devotees are so fortunate to be always engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be one of them instead of such exalted persons as I am now, for I am full of ignorance. The gopis and cows of Vrindavan are so fortunate that they have been able to supply their breast milk to you. Persons who are engaged in performing great sacrifices and offering many valuable goats in sacrifice cannot attain the perfection of understanding you. But simply by devotional service, these innocent villages, women and cows are all able to satisfy you with their milk. You have drunk their milk to satisfaction, yet you are never satisfied as much as by those engaged in performing sacrifices. I am simply surprised. Therefore, with the fortunate position of Maharaj Nanda, Mother Yashoda and the coward men and gopis, because you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, are existing there, here as their most intimate loving object. My Lord, my dear Lord, no one can actually appreciate the good fortune fortune of these residents of Vrindavanam. We are all demigods, controlling deities of the various senses of the living entities, and we are proud of enjoying such privileges. But actually, there is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan, because they are actually relishing your presence of enjoying your association by dine off their sensory activities. We may be proud of being controllers of the senses, but here the residents of Vrindavan are so transcendental that they are not under our control. Actually, they are enjoying their senses through service to you. I shall therefore consider myself fortunate to be given a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan in any of my future lives.
My dear Lord, I am therefore not interested in either material opulences or liberation. I am most humbly praying out your lotus feet for you to please give me any sort of birth within this Vrindavan forest, so that I may be able to be favored by the dust of the feet of some of the devotees of Vrindavan. If I am given the chance to grow as a humble blade of grass in this land, that would be a glorious birth for me. But if I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavan, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavan, so that when the devotees go out, they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. I am just aspiring for a birth in which I will be smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet, because I can see that everyone here is simply full of Krishna consciousness. No one here knows anything but the lotus feet of Krishna or Mukunda, for which the Vedas themselves are searching.
Hare Krishna. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita that the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna. Loud. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita that the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna, and it is said in the Brahma Samhita that it is very difficult to find Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by systematic reading of the Vedic literature, but he is very easily available through the mercy of a pure devotee. The pure devotee of Vrindavan are fortunate because they can see Mukund, Lord Krishna, all the time. This word Mukund can be understood in two ways. Muk means liberation. Lord Krishna can give liberation and therefore transcendental bliss. The word also refers to his smiling face, which is just like the Kund flower. Mukh means face. The Kunda flower is very beautiful and it appears to be smiling. Thus, the comparison is made.
It is confirmed that the Bhagavad-Gita
It is.
the difference. The difference between the pure devotees of Vrindavan and devotees in other places is that the residents of Vrindavan have no desire but to be associated with Krishna. Krishna, being very kind to his devotees, fulfills their desire because they always want Krishna's association. The Lord is always prepared to give it to them. The devotees of Vrindavan are also spontaneous lovers. They are not required to strictly follow regulative principles because they are already naturally developed in transcendental love for Krishna. Regulative principles are required for persons who have not achieved such a position of spontaneous love. Brahma is also a devotee of the Lord, but he is an ordinary devotee, subject to following regulative principles. He prays to Krishna to give him the chance to take birth in Vrindavan so that he might be elevated to the platform of spontaneous love.
Lord Brahma continued, My Lord, sometimes I am puzzled as to how your Lordship will be able to repay in gratitude the devotional service of these residents of Vrindavan. Although I know that you are the supreme source of all benediction, I am puzzled to know how you will be able to repay all the service that you are receiving from these residents of Vrindavan. I think of how you are so kind, so magnanimous, that even Putana, who came to cheat you by dressing herself as a very affectionate mother, was awarded liberation and the actual post of a mother. And other demons belonging to the same family, such as Agasura and Bakasura, were also favored with liberation and achieved you. Under the circumstances, I am puzzled. These residents of Vrindavan have given you everything: their bodies, their minds, their love, their homes, their possessions. Everything is being utilized for your purpose. So how will you be able to repay your debt to them? You have already given yourself to Putana. I surmise that you shall ever remain a debtor to the residents of Vrindavan, being unable to repay their loving service.
My Lord, I can understand that the super excellent quality of the service rendered by the residents of Vrindavan is due to their spontaneously engaging all natural instincts in your loving service. It is said that attachment for material objects and home is due to illusion, which makes a living entity conditioned in the material world. But this is only the case for persons who are not Krishna consciousness. In the case of the residents of Vrindavan, such obstructions as attachment to heart and home are non-existent, because their attachment has been directed unto you and their homes have been converted into temples by your constant presence there, and because they have forgotten everything for your sake. There is no impediment. For a Krishna conscious person, there is no such thing as impediments due to attachment for a hearth and home, nor is there illusion.
I can understand that your appearance as a small coward boy, a child of the coward man, is not at all a material activity. You are so obliged by their affection that you are here to inspire them with more loving service by your transcendental presence. In Vrindavan, there is no distinction between material and spiritual because everything is dedicated to your loving service. My dear Lord, your Vrindavan pastimes are simply to inspire your devotees. If someone takes your Vrindavan pastimes to be material, he will be misled.
My dear Lord Krishna, those who deride you, claiming that you have a material body like an ordinary man, are described in the Bhagavad-Gita as demoniac and less intelligent. You are always transcendental. The non-devotees are cheated because they consider you to be a material creation. Actually, you have assumed this body, which exactly resembles that of an ordinary cowherd boy, simply to increase the devotion and transcendental bliss of your devotees.
My dear Lord, I have nothing to say about people who advertise that they are already realized God or that they, by their realization, they have themselves become God. But as far as I am concerned, I admit frankly that for me it's not possible to realize you by my body, mind, or speech. What can I say about you, or how can I realize you by my senses? I cannot even think of you perfectly with my body, which is the matter of senses. Your qualities, your activities, and your body cannot be conceived of by any person within the material world. Only by your mercy can one understand to some extent what you are. My dear Lord, you are the supreme Lord of all creation. Although I sometimes falsely think that I am the master of this universe, I may be the master of the universe, but there are innumerable universes and there are also innumerable Brahma who presides over these universes. But actually, you are the master of them all. As the super soul in everyone's heart, you know everything. Please therefore accept me as your surrendered servant. I hope that you will excuse me for committing the great offense by disturbing you in your pastime with your friend and calves. Now, if you will kindly allow me, I will immediately leave so you can enjoy your friend and calf without my presence.
My dear Lord Krishna, your very name suggests that you are all attractive. The attraction of the sun and the moon are all due to you. By the attraction of the sun, you are beautifying the very existence of the Yadu dynasty. With the attraction of the moon, you are enhancing the potency of the land, the demigods, the Brahman, the cows, and the oceans. Because of your supreme attraction, demons like Kamsa and others are annihilated. Therefore, it is my deliberate conclusion that you are the only worshipable deity within the creation. Accept my humble obeisances until the annihilation of this material world. As long as there is sunshine within this material world, kindly accept my humble obeisances.
In this way, Brahma, the master of this universe, after offering humble and respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and circumventing him 3 times, was ready to return to his abode, known as Brahmaloka. This gesture, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave him permission to return. As soon as Brahma left, Lord Shri Krishna immediately returned to the bank of Yamuna and rejoined his calves and cohort, boyfriends who were situated just as they had been on the very day they had vanished. Krishna had left his friends on the bank of Yamuna while they were engaged in lunch, and although he returned exactly 1 year later, the cohort boys thought that he had returned within a second. That is the way Krishna's different energies act. It is stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that Krishna himself is residing in everyone's heart, and he causes both remembrance and forgetfulness. All living entities are controlled by the supreme energy of the Lord, and sometimes they remember and sometimes they forget their constitutional position. His friend, being controlled in such a way, could not understand that for 1 whole year they were absent from the Yamuna bank and were under the spell of Brahma's illusion. When Krishna appeared before the boys, they thought Krishna has returned within a minute. They began to laugh, thinking that Krishna was not willing to leave their lunchtime company.
They were very jubilant and invited him. Dear friend Krishna, you have come back too quickly. All right, we have not as yet begun our lunch, not even taken one morsel of food. So please come and join us and let us eat together. Krishna smiled and accepted their invitation, and he began to enjoy the lunchtime company of his friends. While eating, Krishna was thinking, these boys believe that I have come back within a second, but they do not know that for the last year I have been involved with my mystic activities of Lord Brahma.
After finishing their lunch, Krishna and his friend and cows began to return to their Vraj Bhumi homes. While passing, they enjoyed seeing the dead carcass of Aghasura in the shape of a gigantic serpent. When Krishna returned home to Vraj Bhumi, he was seen by all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He was wearing a peacock feather in his helmet, which was also decorated with forest flower. Krishna was also garlanded with flowers and painted with different colored minerals collected from the caves of Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is always famous for supplying natural red oxides, and Krishna and his friend painted their bodies with them. Each of them had a bugle made of buffalo horn and a stick and a flute, and each called his respective calves by their particular names. The cowherd boys were so proud of Krishna's wonderful activities that while entering the village, they all sang his glories. All the gopi in Vrindavan saw beautiful Krishna entering the village. The boys composed nice songs describing how they were saved from being swallowed by the great serpent and how the serpent was killed. Some described Krishna as the son of Yashoda and others as the son of Nand Maharaj. He is so wonderful that he saved us from the clutches of the great serpent and killed him. They said, but little did they know that 1 year had passed since the killing of Aghasur. Hare Krishna.
In this regard, Maharaja Parikshit asked Sukadev Goswami how the inhabitants of Vrindavan suddenly developed so much love for Krishna, although he was not a member of any of their families. Maharaj Parikshit inquired, during the absence of the original cowherd boys, when Krishna expanded himself, why is it that the boys' parents become more loving towards him than toward their own sons? Also, why did the cows become so loving toward the calves more than toward their own calves? Shukadev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that every living entity is actually most attached to his own self. Outward paraphernalia such as home, family, friends, country, society, wealth, opulence, and reputation are all only secondary in pleasing the living entity. They please only because they bring pleasure to the self. For this reason, one is self-centered and is attached to his body and self more than he is to his relatives like wife, children, and friends. If there is some immediate danger to one's own person, he first of all takes care of himself, then others. That is natural. That means he loves his own self more than anything else. The next important object of affection after his own self is his material body.
A person who has no information of the spirit soul is very much attached to his material body, so much so that even in old age he wants to preserve the body in so many artificial ways, thinking that his old and broken body can be saved. Everyone is working hard day and night just to give pleasure to his own self under either the bodily or spiritual concept of life. We are attached to material possessions because they give pleasure to the senses or to the body. The attachment to the body is there only because the I, the spirit soul, is within the body. Similarly, when one is further advanced, he knows that the spirit soul is pleasing because it is part and parcel of Krishna. Ultimately, it is Krishna who is pleasing and all attractive. He is the supersoul of everything. And in order to give us this information, Krishna descends and tells us that the all-attractive center is He Himself. Without being an expansion of Krishna, nothing can be attractive.
Whatever is attractive within the cosmic manifestation is due to Krishna. Krishna is therefore the reservoir of all pleasure. The active principle of everything is Krishna, and highly elevated transcendentalists see everything in connection with Him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that a Mahabhagavat or highly advanced devotee sees Krishna as the active principle in all moving and non-moving living entities. Therefore, he sees everything within this cosmic manifestation in relation to Krishna. For the fortunate person who has taken shelter of Krishna as everything, liberation is already there. He is no longer in the material world. This is confirmed in Bhagavad-Gita. Whoever is engaged in the devotional service of Krishna is already on the Brahmbhut or spiritual platform. The very name of Krishna suggests pity and liberation. Anyone who takes shelter of lotus feet of Krishna enters the boat for crossing over the ocean of nescience. For him, this vast expanse of all the material manifestation becomes as insignificant as the water in a calf's hoof print. Krishna is the shelter of all great souls, and He is also the shelter of material worlds. For one who is on the platform of Krishna consciousness, Vaikuntha or the spiritual world is not far away. He does not live within the material world, where there is a danger at every step.
In this way, Krishna consciousness was fully explained to Maharaj Parikshit by Shukadeva Goswami as he recited to the king the statements and prayers of Lord Brahma. These descriptions of Lord Krishna's pastime with his cowherd boys, his eating with them on the bank of Yamuna, and Lord Brahma's prayers unto him are all transcendental subject matters. Anyone who hears, recites, or chants them surely gets all his spiritual desires fulfilled. Thus, Krishna's childhood pastimes, his sporting with Balram and the cowherd boys in Vrindavan were described. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 14th chapter of Krishna, prayers offered by the Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna.
Chapter 15. The killing of Dhenugasura. In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balarama, passed the childhood age known as Kaumara and stepped into the age of Pauganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing ground. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balarama traversed Vrindavana, purifying the land with their lotus footprints.
accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balrama. Krishna brought forward the cows and played on the flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavana, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest are as sanctified as the clear mind of devotee and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There are chirping birds and clear water lakes with water that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet smelling breeze blew, always refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with the friend and the Balrama, entered the forest and seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased with the behavior of the tree, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires.
Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balaram as follows: My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities, having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives. They have been put into this stationary condition of life, but now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for the further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, living entities in the mood of darkness obtain the bodies of trees. The impersonalists, philosophers, are in the darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personal Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your Lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drone because they are unable to give up your company, even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in a great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection, and the cuckoos who are residing in this forest are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their homes is so auspicious, even though they are trees and animals. These residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability. Art is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body.
Hare Krishna. It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet, and by your touching the twigs with your fingernails, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Vraj, the gopis, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms, being attracted by their beauty.
In this way, Lord Krishna and Balram began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction as they herded the calves and cows on the bank of the Yamuna. In some places, Krishna and Balram were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating and humming the humming sound of the drones and accompanying Krishna and Balrama, who were garlanded with forest flowers. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the swans in the lakes, or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh.
The cows, taken care of by Krishna, had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the chakoras, peacocks, cuckoos, and badarajas. Sometimes when they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of fear of the sounds of tigers and lions, the boys, along with Krishna and Balaram, would imitate the animals and run away with them. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balaram would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest, and Krishna would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balaram. And sometimes Krishna would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balaram, causing a pleasing breeze to relieve him of his fatigue.
Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balram took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them and catching their hands. We would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of big tree or lap of a coward boy and lie down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in a very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, whose legs are tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the coward boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people, but they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God.
While Krishna was thus engaged in his transcendental pastimes, exhibiting his internal potency in the company of the supermost fortunate coward boys, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit the superhuman power of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridama, Subala, and Stoka Krishna, addressed Krishna and Balarama with great love and affection thus: Dear Balaram, you are always powerful. Your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place there is a big forest of the name Talavan. This forest is full of palm trees, and all the trees are filled with the fruits. Some have fallen down, and some are very ripe, even in the trees. It is a very nice place, but because of a great demon, Dhenukasur, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balaram, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and is surrounded by similar demon friends who have assumed the same shape. All of them are very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brothers, you are the only persons who can kill such demons. Other than you, no one can go there for fear of being killed. Not even animals go there, and no birds are living there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from this place. It appears that until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, either on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by the sweet aroma. Dear Balram, if you like, let us all go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruit is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here?
When Balarama and Krishna were thus petitioned by their intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and with smiling faces they proceeded toward the forest, surrounded by all their friends. Immediately upon entering the Talavana, Balarama began to yank the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down on the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon Dhenukasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, approached with great force, shaking the whole field so that all the trees moved as if there were an earthquake. The demon appeared before Balarama and kicked his chest with his hind legs. At first, Balarama did not say anything, but with great anger and demon kicked him again and again more vehemently. This time, Balarama immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass with one hand and, wheeling him around, threw him into the treetops. While he was being wheeled around by Balarama, the demon lost his life. Balarama threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about, and the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees, and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane was passing through the forest, and all the trees were falling down, one after another. This exhibition of extraordinary strength is not astonishing because Balarama is the personality of Godhead known as Anandasesha Naga, who is holding all the planets on the hoods of his millions of heads. He maintains the whole cosmic manifestation exactly as horizontal and vertical threads hold the weaving of a cloth.
After the demon had been thrown in the trees, all the friends and associates of Dhenukasura immediately assembled and attacked Balarama and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. But Krishna and Balarama caught each of the asses by the hind legs and exactly in the same way wheeled them around. Thus they killed all of them and threw them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, they were panoramic scene. It appeared if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of the great incident, the demigods from the higher planet showered flowers and Krishna and Balarama and beat their drums and offered devotional prayers.
A few days after the killing of Dhanukasur, people began to come into the Talaban forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear to feed on the nice grasses growing there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers Krishna and Balaram, one can amass pious activities. When Krishna and Balaram entered the village of Vrindavan along with their friends, they played their flutes and the boys praised their uncommon activity in the forest. Their faces were decorated with tilak and smeared with the dust raised by the cows of Krishna's head was decorated with a peacock feather. Both he and Balaram played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest or him herding cows in the pasture. When they saw Krishna returning, all their anxieties were immediately relieved, and they began to look at his face, the white drones hover over the honey of the lotus flower. When Krishna entered the village, the young gopis smiled and loved Krishna while playing the flute, enjoyed the beautiful smiling faces of the gopis.
Then Krishna and Balram were immediately received by their affectionate mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, who, according to the time's demand, began to fulfill the desires of their affectionate sons. Simultaneously, the mothers rendered service and bestowed benediction upon their transcendental sons. They took care of their children by bathing them and dressing them very nicely. Krishna was dressed in yellowish garments, and Balram was dressed in bluish garments, and they were given all sorts of ornaments and flower garlands. Being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing ground, they looked refreshed and very beautiful.
They were given palatable dishes by their mothers, and they pleasantly ate everything. After eating, they were seated nicely on clean bedding, and the mothers began to sing various songs of their activities. As soon as they lay down on the bedding, they very quickly fell fast asleep. In this way, Krishna and Balram used to enjoy Vrindavan life as cowherd boys. Sometimes Krishna used to go with his boyfriends and Balram, and sometimes he used to go alone with his friends to the bank of the Yamuna and tend the cows. Gradually, the summer season arrived, and one day, while in the field, the boys and cows became very thirsty and began to drink the water of the Yamuna. The river, however, had been made poisonous by the venom of the great serpent known as Kaliya.
Because the water was so poisonous, the boys and cows became visibly affected immediately after drinking. They suddenly fell down on the ground, apparently dead. Then Krishna, who is the life of all that lives, simply cast his merciful glance over them, and all the boys and cows regained consciousness and began to look at one another with great astonishment. They could understand that by drinking the water of the Jamuna, they had died, and that the merciful glance of Krishna had restored their lives. Thus, they appreciated the mystic power of Krishna, who is known as Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic yogis. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 15th chapter of Krishna, the killing of Dhenukasura. Haribol! And thus ends this weekly reading of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, thank you very much for letting us come and read to you. Next week, for all of us, all of you online, we'll be starting with chapter 16, Subduing Kaliya. And now let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane. To each other, Vancha Kalpa Druvyaschа Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Krishna Book, Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki.